Hello everybody, I'm Catriona Morten, I'm a sensory motor psychotherapist, and today what I'd like to talk to you about is how the unconscious plays itself out. But before I do that, if you're enjoying these videos, then please give us a like, subscribe to our channel, because it really helps us get our message out to loads more of you, and it really helps. Thank you. So the unconscious is exactly that. We're not aware of it. It's not in our conscious. It's all the things that we have absorbed, that we've taken in, things that have impacted on us, and they can be belief systems, they can be some kind of characteristics we have, they can be gestures that we make. I make a lot of gestures with my hands. And a lot of the time, this is when the distinction between the head and the body really becomes apparent. So somebody can be talking about something, telling me a narrative about something, and I'm in a very privileged position because I'm sitting opposite and I'm noticing and aware of just some very subtle sometimes, but sometimes not so subtle, changes in the body. The person is really intent with the narrative and, fact finding and explaining things, and will be completely unaware until I might draw their attention to it. And that's why sensory motor work isn't like talking therapy, because I make an understanding with someone at the beginning that, I'll pause things and I'll say, can we just take a moment to notice when you're telling me that, what your body's doing? And sometimes the person is so kind of caught in their head that they just kind of go, oh yeah, And it's me that has to do the noticing. It's like, okay, I speak for the body. So, I'm just noticing that when you talk about X, Y, and Z, your body does this. It's like, oh, okay. And then very often what happens is they kind of shift it and change it. It's like, oh yeah. Anyway. And then they start talking about the thing again, but the body's really consistent. It's brilliant. And so it will just keep going back to doing the thing that it's doing, the unconscious. The head isn't aware of it. It's playing out its own narrative, but the head would go, oh, I have no idea. Oh, good, I did that again. Yeah, how strange. For me, the body tells the actual story of what's happened, how these things have impacted and how they play themselves out. And if they do that in a session with me, they're going to do that in loads of different places. But they'll come up in behaviours, things that we just do, and we rationalise it as something to do with the present. Whereas in fact, it's actually something from the past that's playing itself out. Something that I notice a lot, if we've had experience growing up of being dismissed, oh, I don't feel it, oh, rubbish, you're fine, just stop. For a whole number of reasons. Or told off or humiliated for being a certain way. Ignored, being invisible. Then growing up, that has a really, really detrimental impact on us. And we can often feel like we haven't got a voice. And so people, when challenged, might go very, very quiet. The breath will go very still. The other thing that will consistently happen is when we've not been able to stand our ground, or we need to kind of minimise ourselves, retreat a little bit, then often someone's feet will come off the floor. And it can look really, really perfectly, just, changing position, just making myself comfortable. It's when it happens consistently. I'm like, oh, look at that again, your feet have come off the floor. What's it like as you're telling me about those things and you've got this affect to plant your feet really solidly on the floor? Usually the answer will be, it doesn't feel comfortable. I don't know why, it just doesn't feel comfortable. And that can be a really big clue. And often there's a big difference between what the bottom half of our body do and the top half. Bottom half of our body, if we're going to really stand strong and make a stance, Chris and I were just talking the other day about when people are being really solid, if they're going to make a point, it's like, right, okay. And that's from a very kind of solid, I'm taking myself seriously and much more likely to be listened to and being taken seriously. on someone's feet always just, they come off the floor, they might go like rock sideways, but they come off the kind of flat grounded plane of the floor. And that's different to if somebody's just kind of kicking back and relaxing and putting their feet up. That's fine because there's nothing going on for them. And so it can be really helpful and really revealing to not only help someone have their voice, but to be able to find a way to deal with that discomfort that comes from having my feet on the floor, feeling more solid, because it's like, whoa, hang on a minute, now I'm really kind of showing up. And my experience of showing up in the past was, you know, how dare you, or for goodness sake, don't be so X, Y, or Z. And so they need a new experience of this with someone, and that someone will be me in the first instance, but then they'll be taking that out into the outside world. But when we don't know, and it's really difficult to know what the unconscious narrative is, then those things remain completely hidden in our subconscious, in our unconscious. And it can be a really good exercise to just begin to start observing yourself. And I know I say this a lot, but I can't emphasize enough what an amazing tool and gift it is. Just to every now and again take a moment, even if you put a sticker on your fridge, to go, just observe, what am I doing right now? What's my head doing and what's my body doing right now in this moment? And even if it's like, oh, nothing in particular, notice it. Start making a point of, I'm just going to observe how my body is, the position it's in, and start to notice kind of, oh, do I always lean this way? Or do I always do X, Y, or Z? And not in any critical way, you know, and again, always that, notice what you're doing. Notice if you kind of trip up or make a mistake. What narrative comes up in your head? Is it like, oh, you're being ridiculous, oh, for God's sake. Try and catch it and go, oh, I've got a really negative narrative that comes up. I'm really hard on myself. And yes, it will keep happening. It's procedural, but you can put something else after it. Okay, what can I do to soften that? It's like, oh, everybody makes mistakes. I can't be perfect, or something that just softens that very harsh narrative. I'm not being ridiculous. I'm just being a human. I'm affected by things. In the same way, when we catch in our narrative in our head, we can do the same with our body. Just notice when you're sitting down, when you're watching TV, how does your body arrange itself? How does it tell you that it's comfortable? Is it comfortable? It can really, really be a big tool in spotting the unconscious, bringing it into the present. And it makes it much easier to see, you know, what's going on with somebody else as well, when we're used to just in a very curious way, in a very non-judgy way, start to observe and notice what we're doing and what other people's doing. It can give us a big heads up as to what's going on and just teach us more about ourselves. The more that we can reveal about ourselves and understand, then the more confident we can be. It's like, you know, owning that bit of yourself. And it can just really help moving forward. If we can take a solid stance, if we can always have a voice, if we're always going to come from a place of kindness and acceptance, then I don't think that's such a bad thing. I say this again quite a lot, but it's so important that I'm not negating talking about things. Talking about things is brilliant. You know, I'm a big talker. And understanding theory is really important. Understanding the mechanics of how things are like that. How does our nervous system work? What part does our vagus nerve play? How does our central nervous system work? All of these systems that we have, they're all unconscious. You know, our digestive system, our respiratory system, our temperature regulation system. We're a really carefully balanced system. When one of them goes off, and if that one that's going off is your nervous system, then it's going to have an impact on all of the others. You know, it can affect our body temperature. We can be really out of sync with other people. Our digestive system. I get a lot of people in with issues with the digestive system. If we can help the nervous system settle and come back more into the parasympathetic, if we know we're shooting up, then it can really, really help us. just feel a bit more in control of things, a bit calmer. And we've got lots of videos about grounding and regulation and the nervous system, and I'll link those in the description below, so that if you want to go and look at some of these things, then you've got the tools there to give you a guide to help you find ways of doing that. The more that we can observe ourselves, the more we learn about ourselves. It's an amazing tool to have. You know, even if you don't want to notice the way that your body's arranged, just follow a few breaths. What can you notice about the way that you're breathing right now? Just sit and take a few minutes out and say, I wonder how I'm breathing. How is my breathing? What parts of my body are moving as I breathe? Because the breath is a really good one if you're able to do it, because we do it unconsciously. It's a kind of brilliant mix of both. We don't stop breathing, and if we do, we're in big trouble. When we're asleep, if we pass out, we keep breathing. And so we can trust our breath to keep going. And I know for some people, it's like, if I start to notice my breath, then I start to have the thought, and it's a thought, it's not true, that, well, what if I stop breathing? Learn to trust your body. It will keep going. It's got this. But you can also make it conscious. You can join in with it. What does it feel like to follow a few breaths? It can be a very good practice to help bring the unconscious into the conscious. Like I say, if you're able to do it. So I hope those things have been helpful. I hope they make sense. I hope they, maybe encourage you to do some of these things, not just listen to them, but do them. Take a few moments to follow your breath. It's your body, it's your nervous system, it's your digestive system. The more you know about it, then the easier it is to help it when it's in a bit of trouble, when it's, shouting distress or pain. Not being so afraid of it, having a better relationship with it. It can only be of benefit. So I hope that's helpful, useful. If you've enjoyed this video, give us a like and subscribe to our channel, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon. Okay, bye.